Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. Let's go. I think I'm gonna make myself a little bit more visible this time, and straight away we're gonna go to the Keith Kellogg, who is the special envoy on Ukraine appointed by Donald Trump. Yeah, sorry guys, we have to start from the political news because they influence Ukraine a lot. So we heard lots of the information coming from Donald Trump about the losses in Ukraine and Russia, about the possible sanctions applied on Russia, and in many of the cases the information which Donald Trump gives to us contradicts itself. So luckily we have this person, Mr. Kellogg, who is very intelligent, and he explained to us actually more stuff about the possible negotiations around Ukraine or sanctions. We'll see. He is also ex-general, so he knows lots of the stuff about ex-Soviet Union and Russian Federation. And he confirms that there will be tremendous pressure on Russia. United States will try to dig more oil and sell it elsewhere. Mr. Kellogg says that Russia gets enormous incomes to its budget from the oil sales, so the target price for the Donald Trump's administration should be to lower the oil prices down to $45 per barrel. And just for information, now it's roughly $75 per barrel. Again, we're speaking about Brent, not the Russian Urals, which is cheaper than this price. But still, it allows Russia to receive good income to its budget. So the target is to drop this oil price by $30 per barrel. That's a lot, guys. I don't know how is it possible, but it could be possible with Saudi Arabia if they really put the efforts to pump. But there are some other players on the market, like for example Venezuela or Iran, which are openly pro-Russian dictator countries, so they may freeze the pumping in their country, and the target $45 per barrel, well, it's hard to be reached, but as I say to you, it's possible. The last time we saw the record low oil prices during the COVID crisis, but it didn't last for a long time, as you can see on this graph. And Russia started its full-scale war at this period, and the oil prices continued to rise up high. So now the income for Russia is more or less stable, as you see. Also, there is some sort of the price limit for pumping the oil from the ground. For Russian Urals, well, in general for Russia, it is way more cheaper to get that oil than for the United States of America. So maybe $45 is that lowest limit possible. And guys, again, we may have different attitude to the Trump's administration, to his team, but this guy in particular, Mr. Kellogg, he's damn smart. He actually sees the picture as the whole, and he say that the only way to act on Russia is to hurt its economy. He said that Zelensky is really thinking about the army losses, but not Putin. Putin will not be pushed for negotiations just because of his army losses. Then we speak about soldiers. I don't think that Russians really care. That is the way how they basically go into war. It is the nation that lost roughly 700,000 soldiers for Stalingrad battle alone. That's why if we call Putin to stop this massacre, he will not hurt us, so we need different approach. Under Biden's administration, the approach was to push Russia hard again and again, their military machine, for the heavy losses. Yes, it is the great strategy element, but we also have the other one, which Donald Trump will put in force, and I have high expectations that will have the positive outcome. So here he speaks about the pressure on the economy of Russia and pressure on Putin directly through the oil prices, more sanctions, and so on. And probably the most important, guys, so United States will continue to support Ukraine, as I understood it from his speech. Well, he said that there is the opinion that the United States should continue to support Ukraine, but not from the taxpayers' money. The money for Ukraine, or the funds, should be taken from the Russian frozen assets, which we could use to buy American weapon, and that idea is on the table. Still, there are some of the discussions around this idea, and I think Trump may implement that stuff. Depends on Putin's behavior. The main thing here is to convince Donald Trump. I think that he will be convinced after he will speak with Vladimir Putin, and it will happen very soon. The Telegraph also says that Donald Trump can crush Putin's economy and end Ukraine war. Hopefully they're right, and definitely they're right. Trump can crush Putin's economy in one or other way, not completely crush, but Russia may reconsider lots of the stuff in their army, because their economy will not be able to sustain such a huge military efforts in Ukraine, which might bring the war to the standstill situation, mainly as it was during the Minsk agreements, which by the way Russia exited. But for now it's early to say because decisions of Donald Trump may change in a matter of days, sometimes hours. Hopefully he will definitely push Putin, push Russia and continue to support Ukraine. So to conclude all of those statements, economy sanctions on Russia, they'll try to pump as hell, and there is the high chance to continue the military support of Ukraine. So for now we have mostly good news. The main thing here is for Donald Trump to continue this vector in support of Ukraine mainly, because you never know what Donald Trump wants and thinks. During the election campaign he said one thing, now he says the other thing. Maybe the day after tomorrow he will say that okay, we're gonna stop the military support of Ukraine. He's very unpredictable, but luckily he has persons like Mr. Kellogg in his team, and not only, there are also a couple of good persons there. And Russians do not understand what is really happening. They're in shock. They propelled Donald Trump's idea. They went to X, all of those votes, call everyone to vote for Trump. Okay, Trump is the president, but he threats not Ukraine, not Zelensky as he promised before, probably. But here he told Putin, you're destroying your country, your economy is weak, it's disaster, and we're gonna apply more sanctions on you. Yeah, at the same time Russia helped us to win the Second World War. It was the Soviet Union, but who cares? And Kremlin is in shock. Kremlin responds to Trump's threat over Ukraine deal. Peskov said that during the first term, definitely Trump applied more sanctions, but probably they didn't expect it this time. And they called the American tactics as nothing new. It was definitely an ultimatum on Moscow, they say. And Russia still is looking for equal and respectful dialogue. It's kind of funny to see that stuff, and Putin, he said that he is ready to talk to Trump. I'm ready to talk, I'm ready to talk. We heard from the Russian media every freaking day. But still Putin says about the realities on the ground that definitely Russia wants to occupy part of the Ukrainian territory, well actually full of the Ukrainian territory. He doesn't say like that in the media openly, but sometimes Russian propaganda say it. Moreover, Putin repeated Trump's narrative that definitely elections of 2020 were rigged, and if Donald Trump was a president by the time, there wouldn't be a war. He speaks like that just for Donald Trump to like him. It's understandable. Zelensky also told about it that Putin plays with Trump's feeling. We'll see if Putin really has the influence. Well, 100% we'll see after the call between Donald Trump and Putin or after their meeting. And my friends, if you want to support the job that I do on YouTube, you may follow me on Patreon. As usual, the link is available in the video description just below. Thank you so much for supporting my motivation. Yeah guys, sometimes I also check this Russian propaganda just to understand what they speak about. For example, here they say that Lex Friedman interview will be postponed or will not happen very soon. Before, Friedman accused Zelensky for the bad policy towards Putin and that Zelensky used bad words in regard to Putin. I don't want to use bad words towards this particular person on this platform, but I said what I thing about him on my Telegram page. Alright, United States suspends new funds for aid programs accepting Israel and Egypt. And immediately Russian bots run into those news saying that there will be no military support of Ukraine. That's what they did actually after Trump's inauguration. However, the military support programs for Ukraine were not frozen. And all of the contracts signed before, they continue to go into life. So Ukraine continue to receive weaponry. However, there is the program of the security assistance. It's called FMF, Foreign Military Financing, which was frozen according to the latest information for the 90 days, but it's not the military support. It is mainly goes not for the army but for other security needs, like for example coping with disasters which Russia caused to Ukraine in energy sector and so on. So still it is bad that this program was frozen. Well, at least guys, I have this information for this time. Maybe it is not correct because different media, they write different stuff. What I think that that United States know about some of the corruption schemes really in Ukrainian government, and they want to find out where those funds went before. At least that was the promise of Donald Trump, and maybe in the next 90 days they're gonna find out something. Well, maybe it's even good in general for Ukraine. Because after all, it's kind of interesting for me why Umerov now has decided to fire some of the deputies, including those who were responsible for purchasing very critical equipment, including Ukrainian army. Has it something to do with the possible investigations of this activity? Also, some of the main generals were fired and now prosecuted, well, investigated, let's say. So maybe there is something behind it, and we also should speak about it. So I'm gonna keep you updated about this stuff as well, because there is corruption in Ukraine and we should speak about it as well. I do not agree that we shouldn't speak about it. No, we should also point out the problems also for the Western audience, because our Western allies may do some of the extra efforts to push Ukraine, for example, for reforms or to fight corruption. We'll see. And here's one more example. This guy was arrested recently, Oleg Druz, who is the chief psychiatrist of the armed forces of Ukraine. He's already been arrested, but he said, "Oh, I have a bad health, have problem with the heart and everything." But those problems still allowed him to purchase kind of the expensive apartments in Turkey, worth roughly 650,000 euros. And I must say you that even the chief psychiatrist of the Ukrainian army just cannot allow to purchase that stuff. And this stuff is really happening in the army as well. So you know probably, or you may not know, TCK conscription centers, the duty of those is to take Ukrainian men from the streets, mobilize them to army. So they receive huge bribes. And it's not the Russian propaganda. The Ukrainian media says about it that there are golden mobilization in Ukraine. So there was the case with a colonel in TCK, so in conscription center, who bought very expensive apartment in Spain worth $4 million, something like that. He was prosecuted, but he was released on bail. So honestly saying, guys, there are lots of the Ukrainians who expect some difference with the new White House administration. They think that Donald Trump may push Ukraine for reforms and to fight the corruption. For example, Donald Trump may say, I'm gonna take your side in this war, I'm gonna give you more weapons, we're gonna apply more sanctions on Russia. But please, do everything you can to fight in this war, and first of all, fight your freaking corruption. That would do. I would personally be very, very grateful, because from the Ukrainian government, I don't see like huge steps to fight the corruption. We have lots of the scandals, and only after those scandals appear in media, Zelensky, for example, tells something to do with it. So the system is not working. The corruption is on a low level, on a higher level. It's really a mess, especially during the wartime. Guys, I'm gonna continue to speak about it no matter what. It's true, so I have to do it. I do not have the pink glasses, no, and Ukraine has also internal enemy, maybe as powerful as Putin. It's corruption. But it doesn't mean that Ukraine is Russia, something like that. No, Ukraine still tries, like people still try to handle this stuff, to fight corruption on every level. But with the system, it's really hard to do. And influencers like, for example, Sternenko, who is also a volunteer delivering lots of the drones to Ukrainian army, he does very nice job uncovering some of the terrible schemes. Also, for example, journalist Butusov does it, so there is the fight for justice, at least on that level. But you know, guys, there is corruption elsewhere, also in the countries like Hungary. It's probably one of the most corrupt countries of the European Union, and some corruption obviously in Slovakia. And this bulletproof guy is really against Ukraine with his rhetorics. He put all in on a gas pedal, bullying Ukraine in social media, in his interviews, in his posts. If you read anything from Fico Fakafico, you'll see that Ukraine is to blame for everything, for the war to start, for blackmailing Slovakia, Hungary, Europe. Today he said that Ukraine will never be in NATO, and there will be the problems or big issues for Ukraine to enter European Union. So Fico sees himself as a king, decisive power of the European Union, but in fact he is zero. And you know, guys, I'm very, very grateful for all of those Slovak people who go on a protests right now in Slovakia against Fico's regime. Lots of the people, as you can see on the main square. Just look at this picture. Ukrainian flags also waving, tremendous number of the people. So Fico is I now understand why Fika spent so much time hiding in a luxury hotel of Vietnam for almost 2 weeks. Basically, he knew about the upcoming protests and he thought that maybe it's not safe to come back to Slovakia. Well, hopefully one day he will be kicked out from Slovakia and spend the rest of his life in this luxury hotel, but without spending Slovak budget funds. And you know, Viktor Orban also doesn't know what to do. He was against the sanctions, like new sanctions applied on Russia, but now Donald Trump seems to support this move. You see, he is the close companion of Donald Trump, but at the same time, he is like China mix Russia puppet in Europe. So here's the go, no go decision for him, but after all, I think that he will support Donald Trump's idea to apply more sanctions, which is actually good for Ukraine and not good for Russia and China. Oh shit, here we go again. I put the full video on my Telegram channel, but here is just a screenshot for you to understand what is happening. Russian army tortures its soldiers. Like, I cannot even tell what is happening on this video, probably because of the policy, censorship and so on, but this guy turns to a Marvel character called Electrical Man. If Russians do it themselves towards their own soldiers, just imagine what they do towards Ukrainian prisoners of war. By the way, there was the terrible video, which I cannot even share on my Telegram. Then crazy Russian drug-addicted ex-prisoner soldier zeroed 6 of the Ukrainian warriors, who surrendered before to their unit. It's called Storm Z, you probably know that one. It basically consists of pure scam, and the identity of that particular soldier who done this war crime, it's been identified. And I think he will be zeroed himself by Russians. It's the usual stuff in the Russian army, just, you know, to get rid of this witness of the crimes. And we have the full video of those Russian disabled soldiers who were sent to fight. So they obtain rifles and everything, and they go to fight. I probably shared the part of it, but here we definitely have one more with detailed explanation. It's in Russian, but I can tell you what is happening. So those orc-looking Russian soldiers are saying that they were thrown to the battle, even though they all received wounds before. Some of the wounds are quite critical, but they have no other choice, because otherwise they will be just zeroed by the Russian command. And you know, guys, we have the history of the military conflicts before. The attitude has never been such a terrible one towards the own soldier in any kind of the army, even including the Red Army. It is the unique stuff of the Putin's regime. Usually soldiers even obtain rewards and medals if they have wounds, depends on the severity of the wounds. But here, no, they're like a meat. Go and fight, take the rifle. Even if you cannot walk, but you can stay with that stuff, with crunches, or how to call those, you can still go straight forward to Ukrainian positions, and that is how Ukrainians will waste drone on you probably, or the Russian surveillance may spot the Ukrainian location if they start to shoot at this guy. So it's like a pure humiliation of the own soldiers. It's crazy. Like, I understand that the Russian army is divided into 2 parts. One is professional and this one is the mid-wave army, I call it. But come on, it is far beyond imagination. And still, Russians voluntarily go to obtain millions of rubles and waste their lives for nothing. I think I should film a separate video about it to explain you more details about what is happening in the Russian army, because then I read reports from the Russian soldiers in opposition Russian channels, how they complain about the attitude, what stories are there. I cannot even imagine that it is happening in real life in a second army in the world. Well, luckily for us, this attitude towards their own soldiers demoralizes the Russian army from inside. So their capabilities actually are much lower compared to what it could be. That's why Russia is moving slowly on the front lines using massive resource of the army man. Just understand, my friends, Ukraine is a small country. It has limited resources. Russia is massive, with their massive, still massive economy, with their own military production, stocks, aviation, and so on. So the achievements for Russia, in this case on the front lines, are very low. Yeah, Ukraine also receives the military support, but first of all, it was quite limited for a very long time by United States Congress, and what Ukraine gets is the part of Russia actually has. And Ukraine doesn't have aviation still. Those few F-16s will do nothing against many of the Russian military jets. So because of the poor morale, the terrible state of the Russian army with their communication, logistics, army vehicles, and so on, Russian army is struggling to advance very fast. What is happening? I don't know the context of this picture, but hopefully Putin will not release those beasts to Ukraine. Otherwise, guys, Ukraine is doomed. How old are they? 14 or something? Is it the school program or is it the military camp for the training? Jesus Christ. And the crisis is coming to the Russian biggest fossil fuel company, Gaspro. Just the last week, Gaspro was forced to lay off 1,600 employees, and now it demands from the Russian government to raise the prices for the natural gas for ordinary Russians by several times. Otherwise, they say that the company cannot sustain itself. The transit was cut by Ukraine and they do not receive enough income, so they have to look for alternatives inside Russia. So those Russians who have gas will pay more, as well as the Russian factories, production, including military production. Those news are great. So Russia not only stays without the European money for their gas, but also they are forced to pour more funds into its factories to continue to run their war machine. Great news, Gazprom is fun, and I hope it will be fun more. And here you can see the paint job on the BTR, Battle Tractor Russians. They are forced to use even agricultural vehicles for the needs of the front lines. Like before, I showed you that they travel on those kind of the tractors very close to the front lines, on the trailers behind, so Russia is running out of the vehicles. If we go, for example, to RT News, you will see that they proudly say that Jihad Mobile sent to Donbass Chechen leader. Alright, those vehicles have absolutely no armor, and this is Russian gas, so unreliable vehicles at all. Well, before Kadyrov sent some of the Akhmat armored vehicles, those were definitely AMRAPs. They were spotted in the Kursk front lines, but all of them were caputed by Ukrainian drones. And here is one more try. Well, those kind of the off-road vehicles and trucks, those are good for supplies mainly, but do you really think that they will live for a long time? I think that the destiny for them will be as usual as for the Russian Bukhanka, especially without the drone protection. The Russian Bukhanka van is absolutely classic picture of this war. And Russians in many cases advance towards Ukrainian positions on those vehicles. They are not used for supplies only. Alright guys, and now to the Frontlines review. I know that I'm quite famous for reviewing mostly military maps, but I also, as you can see, speak about different stuff. So I told you roughly 2 days ago about the Ukrainian advancement towards Kruglakivka. It's the Kupiansk direction, where Russia actually had the initiative before. Well, today we have the confirmation that Ukraine moved even further, and now Ukraine is very close to this kind of the important village. If Ukraine takes that, there will be one more supply route for Ukrainian army. So tactically, Kruglakivka is very important for Ukraine. Roughly 2 months ago, Ukraine lost it. But now there is the chance, small chance, for Ukraine to get it back under control. At least I see the intention of the Ukrainian command of this sector. And again, it tells that Russia is not capable to advance in many of the points. At some points where their defense is weak, Ukraine takes initiative. However, if we speak about the general picture, obviously Russia moves more than Ukraine. They take the ground in Pakrovsk direction, for example, and we look at Novosilka. Well, deep state military map doesn't give us the update. Russian military maps, which I checked before, show us this picture that Ukrainian army is being encircled, but it's not like that. According to my information, Ukrainian army left this entire area to this northern part, and Russia occupied 75 or 70% of Velika Novosilka. We have it from different analytics. The encirclement we see just on the Russian maps. So the real picture is more like on this 3D map, which I used to review the situation on the front lines as well. So everything of that is the gray zone, but still there is the presence of Ukrainian army, and our soldiers should go a little uphill to cross this river, difficult terrain to exit this entire war-filled area. But this part, the southern part of the settlement is under the Russian control. No encirclement was there. Luckily, this time Ukraine received the command to withdraw from this area well before the encirclement happened, but still I guess it was too late, because how can you exit it normally, like there are no roads and so on. So yeah, the situation was and still difficult for Ukraine in this region. And you know guys, after all, I'm quite surprised about Pokrovsk, because Russia still hesitates to move with their major forces there. I actually expected the battle for Pokrovsk to be started in December, maximum in January, and now it's the end of the January and the battle is not there. That's the good sign. It may show two of the things. First of all, Russia is out of the major resources to start the battle in this kind of the big town, or Ukrainian defense is not that easy for the Russian army around the Pokrovsk. But where Russia moved for the last 24 hours is in Dachna. The fight is ongoing in this village already. However, with a couple of the counterattacks, Ukraine expanding this pocket, so there is the way out for Ukrainian army at any moment using this highway, or just a good road. For the war scale is the highway. What we see that the Russia moved also in Toretsk. Yes, we have the recent update, so you can see that they've took the most part of this town. It is understandable that Russia will take Toretsk very soon. And here in Suhi Yalev, Russia also moved a little, yeah, close to Dachna. They want to advance towards this road, but still they will not cut this pocket for Ukrainian army. Ukraine will gradually withdraw from this place. So just few of the changes actually for the last 24 hours, which is good. The pace of the attack of the Russian army slowed down significantly compared to what it was a couple of months ago. Plus, again, there is the crisis in the Russian artillery, this time not with artillery shells, but with artillery systems. Russia is running out of barrels and the systems themselves. But who helps Russia? North Korea. This video was shared yesterday, and here you can see lots of the artillery systems coming to Russia from North Korea. This is the Russian far east, Zabaykalsky Krai or something. So North Korea goes full in to support Russia, not just with artillery shells, but also with vehicles. According to Ukrainian information, North Korea will send many more soldiers to Russia again for the training, and Russia might use them against Ukraine. Wow guys, this is the helmet of the Ukrainian soldier. An absolutely crazy video was shared on internet today. I don't know whether it's fresh or not, but a guy received 2 consecutive head shots into the helmet and, as you can see, GoPro. If you want to see like the real video, go to my Telegram channel again. It's for free. I ask you, go to Telegram. It's in the video description, because there I publish many more of the updates. Yeah, it would be awesome if you would subscribe for my Patreon, but Telegram is also nice. And again, it's for free. I'm not posting on X or something. Telegram, I think, is better. So here guys, again, the evidence that the gear should be the best of the best. First of all, original. And if you didn't know, like at the beginning of the war, I've worked with some of the volunteer funds, and I stopped working with them because we received some of the complaints from the soldiers. First of all, they did like armor vests. It was in the summer 2022, but after soldiers tested those vests before using those, they complained a lot, so we cancelled the operation with that volunteer fund. And since that time, I do not work with any sort of the funds, because first of all, I'm not sure about the products they provide to Ukrainian army, and secondary, I'm not sure about the funds if they go to the proper destination. I just work with Timur Rudov fund later on, because I know this guy, he is the vessel captain, we know each other, and he has his own fund, so I helped him. But since that time, I work directly with my friends who are there. More I cannot tell you guys, sorry. And yes, I forgot to say that here soldiers survived. The helmet is really strong. It saved his life, maybe together with his GoPro camera. GoPro advertisement here. The soldier, I guess, is from the 3rd Assault Brigade. Some say that the video was old and the soldier is gone already. Well, I just hope that that information is fake and the soldier is alright. He's damn lucky after all. Right guys, let me have some fun. I understand that many people just love Donald Trump. It's like the new religion for them. For me, absolutely not. But here's the greatest achievement of the new president of the United States so far. The Gulf of Mexico was renamed to the Gulf of America. I think it should be the Gulf of America. Yeah. Oh, seriously, guys. It is cringe. That's what I call a real political populism. It will be renamed just for the United States. Other countries will still call it a Gulf of Mexico. Why is it Mexico? Well, because this part was Mexico before. Texas for sure. And in Google Maps I still see that it's Gulf of Mexico. Google, what up? Rename it immediately, otherwise you'll have tariff sanctions and so on. Again, Donald Trump supporters, I apologize, but I cannot not make fun of him. Because it's cringe left and right. Donald Trump called yesterday to Denmark Prime Minister over Greenland. And Trump has been aggressive and confrontational following the Danish Prime Minister comments that the island was not for sale. So she offered more cooperation on military bases and mineral exploitation, but not annexation of Greenland. What scares me, guys, a little, that Donald Trump, he's like a small boy. He calls, I want your toy, I want your toy so bad, give it to me. And if he doesn't receive it, he starts to scream with aggressive behavior. Yeah, from the main politician in the world we have this stuff. So why am I scared that Putin actually may influence Donald Trump with such a behavior? Like Kamala Harris said on debates that Donald Trump could be easily manipulated by world dictators. Hopefully Ukraine will not be touched by this. And you know, yesterday Donald Trump again said about 51st state that Canada should become Panama, Greenland, Canada. Sometimes he speaks about Mexico. So this rhetorics, yeah, I'm laughing about it, but at the same time, it's really scary. A new defense secretary or Pentagon chief was voted. His name is Pete Hegseth. Yes, the vote went through. It was 50-50 in Senate, but J.D. Vance, vice president, also has his vote and he voted for it. So 51-50. This guy is elected. Very tight voting compared to Marco Rubio, for example, because mainly everyone supported him. But Ukraine will have to deal with a new Secretary of Defense as well. Democracy, democracy. Majority always wins, even if that majority is barely visible. Donald Trump also cancels lots of the refugee programs, including Ukrainian U4U, as the New York Times says, but I checked out the other sources. It is not yet clear at this stage towards Ukrainians. We'll see it for sure in the coming days, but I think that the United States should allow Ukrainians to enter because there is the full-scale war in Ukraine and there are lots of the refugees who need help, and the United States, they do not pay those refugees. They just accept refugees on its soil and that's it. No benefits like in Germany, for example. But still, it's like the major concern for Donald Trump's administration, maybe. As you probably know, there are also deportations ongoing of illegal immigrants, and Mexico refuses to accept a United States deportation flight. There were at least 2 of the military airplanes of the United States Air Force. The United States thought that they can just take people and deliver them back to Mexico. Well, Mexico said no, because they don't know who is on board, maybe not even Mexican citizens. Maybe yes, maybe no, so it wasn't actually coordinated with Mexico. Kind of a strange move from Donald Trump, like, we're gonna send you military airplanes full of refugees, you should accept those. Like, you should coordinate this stuff before. There should be some of the infrastructure applied in Mexico, like at least some of the camps for those refugees. So far, the policy of Donald Trump to deport immigrants, it doesn't work as he thought. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my videos, for giving me likes, your comments, and obviously for supporting me on Patreon. You do fantastic job, and that drives me on. As you can see, sometimes I do experiments with my videos, thumbnails, so I decided to return to the good old school thumbnails, kind of the clumsy, but yeah, you like it probably more. So anyways guys, I'm gonna keep you updated on Ukraine, and not only. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.